the thing was, I was praying, crying. I was like, God, I don't understand why I keep feeling this is supposed to happen, and then it doesn't. And every time I would get still and try to literally hear that voice inside, that some people call it still small voice, some people call it intuition or gut feeling. Every time I did that, I kept feeling like I was supposed to keep going. And it was like, okay, with God and grace and grit, like I'm going to trust this feeling, even though it doesn't make sense. And by the way, I should clarify this. I think we're in a society that always is like, don't give up, whatever you do, as if that's the victory. I don't think that's the victory. I think there's a lot of people in jobs they don't love, or in friendships or relationships that are not good for them, or they just keep the victory is not quitting. I don't think that's true. I think the victory is learning how to hear ourselves and trust ourselves, right? Like,
that's good.
Like,
my first question, I'm going to write a note for myself so I don't forget the second one, because I had two things I want to talk to you about, was that I'd like to hear you talk a little bit about how you came. I realize this is sort of a vague, nebulous question. I'm not quite sure how you're going to answer, but how is it that you came to trust your own intuition when all your externals at the time are negative? You are not it's not like you're trusting your gut because everything's working, or you're trusting your intuition because opportunity is just like piling up. It was no, 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 no. What was it inside of you or outside of you? I don't really know. That gave you that clear sense of this North Star of knowing that you know what you know and staying the course until you got there.
Yeah. I'm 44 and still, and similar to you for me, first of all, I believe we all have an intuition, and I believe it's more powerful than anyone else's advice. For me, when I share sort of my whole journey in Believe It in my book, I don't just talk about overcoming self-doubt and body doubt. But I also talk about overcoming God doubt. And the reason I bring that up is for me, I went through a long journey with faith, and that included a few decades of God doubt and some big lessons on where my faith is now, which I believe beyond a shadow of a doubt God exists, but went through a big journey my whole life on that. But what I wanted to share about intuition is, for me, like when I pray, I feel like that is how I hear God, is through my intuition. And so I think that it is the most deeply spiritual practice, is being able to hear ourselves and make the decision to trust ourselves. And in my journey, though, it's been a journey, right? It's this, I think, I believe it's a lifelong journey, almost like our intuition's like a muscle we build over time, and it gets stronger with use, and stronger when we look back on times. If someone were to say, how do I start to hear myself? I don't know if I ever have, or I haven't in a long time. I think one, just wanting to, right? And then two, really looking back at times when you kind of had a gut feeling, but maybe you didn't listen to it. And then what happened? And similarly, times where maybe everyone else gave you certain advice and you're like, and then you trusted yourself, and what happened then? And the more we start, paying attention to all those times in our life, like we all know when we dated like a guy that, his phone broke or he disappeared for 3 days, and he's like, oh, but we all know, right? Yeah. We know we can choose to go, maybe his phone did break.
Totally.
Right. But we know. And I think it starts with really just like reflecting on all these moments in our life, or when we're in a group with girlfriends at coffee and something felt like it wasn't true or off, or, and we look back at those times. And I think the more we can do that, the stronger we build it going forward. And in my journey, it was, and I think also as women, and I know you share a lot about this in some of your work, which I love, and it's so inspiring. But we are taught to not trust ourselves or to make decisions based on consensus and all kinds of things, right? And, I think had I not figured this part out of being able to hear my gut and trust it, cosmetics would have been done in the first year. And in the journey, two examples or two stories, I should say, that stand out just to share, in case they're helpful for anyone who needs to hear this too now in their own life, who especially is going through a season of what feels like setback or a rejection. But, we were, building the business, and it was like no after no after no. And every time I would send my products to Sephora or Ulta, it was a no. Or I remember we got the head guy of QVC Beauty. So his name's Alan Burke. So he's this legend in the beauty industry. And he's the person that for many years, QVC was kind of known as selling like maybe products people hadn't quite heard of, and some of them they had, but he kind of turned it into this place where all the top luxury brands from department stores wanted to sell their beauty products on QVC. And he's this legend. And I remember this moment, I finally got him on the phone. Like, his assistant said he's willing to do a call with me. And this is after a couple of years of sending my products in and hearing no. I was like, he's going to do a call. I'm like, there's no way it's going to be a no, because he would not waste his precious time. And I was like freaking out that this was going to be my big break. And I remember I was pacing our office, which is our living room, on the phone, on the phone, and when he called, and I'm like, he's like, this is Alan Burke at QVC. I'm like, Alan, Jamie Kern Lima, so great to, I was trying to like tell myself they'd be lucky to have us, like all these things.
Totally.
Meanwhile, we were down to no money. We were down to, I didn't know how we were going to stay alive as a company. And we were only doing like 1 to 2 orders a day on our website.
Oh, man.
And which, we were able to turn the lights on, but barely. And I didn't know what was going to happen. And I remember he said to me on the phone, he's like, thank you for sending your products. All of them. I sent him so many times for a couple of years. And he said, we've reviewed
all of them.
We've reviewed, your products with the whole buying team. He said it's unanimous. You're not the right fit for QVC or for our customers. And I was just like,
it's unanimous.
It's unanimous. And, he wanted me to know, like, every buyer has weighed in, and I was like devastated. Right. And I'm like, oh, but Alan, we are the right fit. And I went into like trying to pitch myself again and just like all the reasons. And he said, he thanked me. He was super kind. He thanked me for loving QVC, but said it's a no. Yeah. And at that point, I remember it felt like one of the biggest blows, because I had, when we talk about intuition, I had this feeling I couldn't shake in my gut that said, okay, you're supposed to be on QVC because you can't Photoshop live TV. You can put all these real women, different ages, shapes, sizes, prove your product works live, call them beautiful, mean it. Like, I saw the whole thing in my head. Right. But what happened was, for 2 years straight, they told me no every time. And a lot of times in life, we have these visions or these feelings that something is meant for us. And then we get no 1 time or 5 times or 20 times. And that's when we think our gut is wrong. Right. And I'll never forget that night. I went to bed, cried myself to sleep. And then I woke up the next morning feeling like, hoping it was a dream. And then when you realize it's not, right? And that happened for 3 days in a row. But when it comes to intuition, the thing was, I was praying, crying. I was like, God, I don't understand why I keep feeling this is supposed to happen, and then it doesn't. And every time I would get still and try to literally hear that voice inside, that some people call it still small voice, some people call it intuition or gut feeling. Every time I did that, I kept feeling like I was supposed to keep going, and it was like, okay, with God and grace and grit, like I'm going to trust this feeling, even though it doesn't make sense. And by the way, I should clarify this. I think we're in a society that always is like, don't give up, whatever you do, as if that's the victory. I don't think that's the victory. I think there's a lot of people in jobs they don't love, or in friendships or relationships that are not good for them, or they just keep the victory is not quitting. I don't think that's true. I think the victory is learning how to hear ourselves and trust ourselves, right? Like,
that's good.
Like when I was in the working as a news anchor, thinking that was my dream job, I think knowing when to let go of a dream is as important as knowing when to go
I do
after
too.
one,
Yeah, that's
And for
good.
me,
That's a
quitting
good
then
word.
was the victory.
Mm.
But I remember that feeling after Alan Burke had said those words to me, and I felt like I just talked to this legend, and all of a sudden, even he's telling me I'm not the right fit. And he's telling me it's not going to be a yes, and all those things. One other quick story, just on intuition. And then one fun ending to that is, we were struggling to know how are we going to stay alive, right? So this is the point where even QVC now, the head guy says no. Everyone's saying no. We're a couple years in. We're down to under $1,000 in our combined company and personal bank account, which just meant like, okay, we have a couple weeks left at any moment being able to pay bills and everything else. And we got an inbound call from a potential investor, a big private equity company. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be huge. And they loved our product. And I just, my mind went to this place of like, oh, if they invest, then I'm not going to go bankrupt. And they could probably use their power and their leverage to get us in these places that keep telling me no. And so we started taking meetings with this potential investor who's super well known. They've taken a bunch of pre-revenue companies and like a bunch of products we buy in grocery stores every day. They've turned them into household names. And I thought, we do that with It Cosmetics. So excited. And we did meeting after meeting, and I started the diligence phase where you show your whole product pipeline. And it got to the final meeting. My husband and I flew up for it. And I thought like, this is going to be life-changing. And we were in person, and I was about 3 feet from the head guy, and they congratulated us and thanked us for the product pipeline, all the kind of stuff. And he said to me, we want to let you know that, we've decided it's a no. We're going to pass on investing in It Cosmetics. And by this point, I had heard no a million times. And I was just like, okay, can you tell me why? Because, feedback is usually a gift. And I'm like, can you tell me why? And he paused for a long time, and he goes, do you want me to be really honest with you? And I'm like, yes, please. And he says, I just don't think women will buy makeup from someone who looks like you with your body and your weight. And in this moment, so a couple of things. When he said those words to me, and this is in person, 3 feet from him, my husband's right next to me, his whole team is there. When he said those words, I just don't think women will buy makeup from someone who looks like you with your body and your weight. First of all, a lifetime bodied out, like flooded my body. And it felt like I was like staring my own fear straight in the eye in a way. But I'll never forget this moment, Jen. He said that to me. I didn't even feel anger. I mean, I cried in my car later, but I didn't feel anger toward him. I got this feeling in my gut that said he's wrong. Like I felt it was this, I remember it like it was yesterday. It was this feeling that said he's wrong. Now I didn't know how to prove it. I had no sales. I had no, anything. And so over the next several years, I didn't hear from him for another 6 years, but over the next several years, just to share this in case, because here's the thing, we've all had somebody literally tell us we're not enough, or we're not
one way or another.
Right. One way or another, or they don't believe in us, or we need to change who we are if we're ever going to succeed. Right. Two things. I decided, instead of taking what he said personally, even though it hurt, what I realized, because I had done that work of knowing like why I was doing what I was doing, and my big, deep why for the company, I was able to realize, oh my gosh, he's just as much impacted by the beauty industry as I am. He's some dude deciding like, you can't make money for me because of how you look. That's basically what he's deciding. But he's really just a byproduct of an industry. And for me, it became this fuel of like, oh, wow, like this has got to change. And so that's one thing. The second thing is, over the next several years, like his words would come back in my head, right? How many times someone says something to us and we made the mistake of letting it take root, even though we didn't think we did. And so, I started really practicing this whole tool about, learning how, like, I would literally imagine myself turning down the volume on his words. And then with intuition, with that feeling in that moment, I would do everything in my power to remember that feeling I had when he said it, which was he's wrong, like that feeling. And I would try to amplify that and trust that and turn down the volume on his words. And I would do that a lot with rejection and everything else. And then, the last thing I'll say is, there's that famous saying, rejection's God's protection. And the relationship, I think the relationship, I'm like leaning over like I'm on your couch. I'm like, sorry, I'm just realizing my posture in the screen. I'm like leaning into you like I'm like literally on your couch.
I'm propped. I'm like nodding. I'm with you. The same.
Totally. But there's that famous saying, rejection's God's protection. And it's just talking to you live. One of the things I just want to share is just all of us, every one of us, like our relationship with rejection and is, I think, one of the most defining things in our life about if we're ever going to become the person we're born to be, and like how we handle rejection. And the one thing that just hundreds and hundreds of rejections, I started seeing them as like, okay, I'm going to be one of the people that's going to trust my gut and go after I'm going to be a brave one that's going to like try to go after my dream or step into all of who I am. And I think with anyone that's ever done that in history or otherwise, it comes with so many rejections. And so I kind of started to learn to see rejection almost as a victory in a way. It's like a victory of being a brave one who's going after who she's born to be in life. And, it would still hurt and all those other things. But on the last thing on the rejections, God's protection, I try to see it that way every day in life too. And,
good.
6 years later, when L'Oreal bought this little company I started in my living room, the day before the sale happened, they decided, because they're a public company, they decided to release the purchase price. So I didn't know that was happening. And I kind of panicked, because what happened is the very next day, it's on the homepage of the Wall Street Journal. It's everywhere, online, everywhere. It Cosmetic sells for $1.2 billion cash. And I heard from that investor.
Bet you did.
First time in 6 years.
Bet you did.
He said, congratulations on the L'Oreal deal. I'm so happy for you. I was wrong. And I learned it would have been the most successful investment in his firm's history had he invested. But here's the thing with rejection being protection, like at the time that I met with him, I was so desperate. Like I didn't know, I probably would have given him the majority of the company for
totally.
Right.
Yeah.
But because he didn't believe in me, and a lot of other people did on the journey, but because he didn't, by the time we sold the L'Oreal, we were still the largest shareholders. So I was like, thank goodness he rejected me.
That's right.
And then Alan Burke with QVC, after we launched on QVC, he became one of my greatest mentors in my life.
That's great.
And when he retired from QVC, right, he was the head of all QVC Beauty that kind of had me crying myself to sleep and saying, you're not the right fit. Well, after he retired from QVC, he was such an important mentor in my life. We actually hired him for our advisory board at Cosmetic, in a paid position. So the guy who rejected me was now working for me, right?
It's so great.
I want to share that, like no one can tell you, how big your dreams can be, or that you're not the right fit, or that you change who you are to ever achieve the dreams on your heart.
Oh my gosh. Those two full circle moments are incredible. Like just absolutely incredible.
This was about 14 or 15 years ago. So we're talking 2007, 2008, correct? Mm-hmm. In my opinion, Jamie Kern Lima is the reason why we have this real beauty movement. There always has to be the first person, and she was it. So when you look around the internet and social media and you see people doing naked faces, that was not something people did in 2007. It was all airbrush. It was all perfection. That was the beauty standard. There were no plus size or curvy models. That was not a thing back then. And so you've got a woman who is sitting in Seattle, who has no experience and no money, deciding that she is going to not only figure out how to create a makeup line for people who have issues with their skin, but that she's going to do something nobody has ever done, which is put real, normal people like you and me into her campaigns when she finally gets this figured out. And she's going to show people what her skin actually looks like in order to sell it. I mean, that was a revolutionary idea. She was the first. And I'm telling you this because you could be the first. You have something inside of you that is a problem, something that you can solve. And you could be the first to change the way that people think about an issue. And so, Jamie, let's pick up the story because how do you go from this aha moment, like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, to doing something? Because I
Yes.
think some of us have aha moments, right?
Yep. And then we
But we
doubt
don't
him.
do anything.
Yes, because we doubt him. We
Yes.
doubt him. We think like, oh, someone's already done it.
Yes.
Or oh, whatever. First of all, if you're out there right now and you think, oh, you have an idea or a way you want to show up in the world or someone else you want to help, but you think, oh, someone's already done it. Literally, there's only one of you in the entire universe, which by definition means no one has ever done it the way you're going to do it. So when I launched this,
Say that again, Jamie, for the people that are like, whoa, 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 kids, calm down. Wait, Jamie just said something. I was doing my dishes. Say that again. Talk about the fact that this matters.
This is huge because I think the biggest reason we talk ourselves out of things is we think, oh, someone's already done it.
Yes.
Someone's already done it before, who must be smarter than me or more talented or more whatever it is than me. And what I have learned and then proven, and I want to tell you too about I'm going to get so excited, Mel, because no, when you do this thing, like, don't be shocked then when there's millions and millions of rejections and people don't get it, right? Because it's never been done before, right?
Oh, yes.
Because there's only one of you. There's only one of you doing it the way you're going to do it. But just to recap that, there is literally only one of you in the entire universe, right? And so if you are going to show up to this world authentic, that means whatever you do, if it's authentic to you, it's actually by definition, it's never been done before, right? And so when you show up that way, don't be surprised if not everyone gets it right away. Or, in my case, all the experts I put on pedestals all said no. That this idea of how I wanted to connect with women, they thought it wouldn't work and they thought I wouldn't therefore make them any money.
But can I ask you a question real quick? How did you go from the aha
Yes.
to starting? So what did that look like? Like, because I think like if you're in this space where, let's just use an example. You've never actually, you don't know the first, you have this thing about catering that you just can't get it out of your head. You want to do these events, you've never actually done this because you had never done anything with makeup. You had no idea what you were doing.
Yep.
You have an idea and you have an aha moment. What was the first thing that you did to start to make this real?
So leaning on that, why I had to do it and why it felt like it was going to be part of my purpose was a big thing that helped me actually take the risk, quit my job.
Wait, you quit your job because you had an aha moment?
Yeah, it was deep. I was like, if I had
What did it feel like?
It felt like if I didn't do it, I would wake up the rest of my life with this pain in my gut, this longing, knowing I was created for more. It felt like if I didn't do it, I would have the pain of regret. And if I did do it, I might have the pain of failure and maybe the pain of embarrassment and then maybe the pain of, oh, wow, that doesn't feel like it went how I thought it was. I knew it was this big risk. I knew I was leaving what I thought was my dream job.
Why did you have to quit your job? Just curious.
It was literally from day one, I was all in. Like I dove all in. I knew if I was going to do this, I needed to just go all in on it. I started, I do not recommend this, but I started working like 100-hour weeks from the beginning. I was so freaking passionate about it. Like I couldn't stop thinking about what if I can actually figure this out. What if I can literally, because it became a big
So did you have
dream.
any savings? Like, do you have a little bit of
Very
savings?
little
Because you didn't
savings.
pay yourself for the first 3 years that you did this.
First 3 years. So basically, my husband and I wrote this business plan, right?
Yep.
Quit our jobs, dove all in our living room. We poured all of our savings into it. I thought, Mel, and this is for someone watching us right now, I know this. I thought if I can figure the product out, it's going to be huge.
Right.
And then I realized, like, oh, being an entrepreneur or launching a dream is not always that easy. We put every penny we had into it, and once we actually created a product, and we were scrappy. If you
And
want to
how
know
did you
how,
create a product? Like, are you in your
yeah.
kitchen buying stuff at the grocery store, or how does this even work?
Okay, so no, so so first, I love that, technology is right there, right? So researching how are makeup formulations made, who makes them, what are the FDA regulatory compliance, all the unsexy stuff I know nothing about, just diving into the research phase of how does this happen. And then what I learned is that manufacturers are makeup companies' closest held secrets, right? Like closest held secrets. They won't disclose who they work with, but a
Hmm.
lot of these big manufacturers work with all the top brands that you see or a handful of them.
Gotcha.
So I
So,
started,
so are you saying that all of the brands and top brands that you see are basically manufactured by a handful of companies?
yes,
Okay,
handful of
got it.
companies, and then some do it in-house as well.
Gotcha.
So what I did was scrappy. I walked into a Sephora. I wrote down the name of every single brand in there, went home. I had no money, right? Cold call every single brand and saying like, "Oh, I'm looking for a really great manufacturer. Could you let me know who you manufacture?" And then they hang up on me. You know what I mean? One after another, after another, after another. And I got this really small brand in a totally different kind of positioning where the girl who answered said, "Oh, here's who we use. They're in New York City, blah, blah, blah." So that was my first manufacturer. Reached out to them, had a meeting in person, had no money, poured this idea out to them. They took a risk making me samples. And that's how it started, was just really being scrappy and trying to figure it out. All of our money had went into the product development formula and the
Yep.
advisory board of the product.
Yep.
And I thought, okay, now we have a product that works for me, right? This was after hundreds of formula iterations. I thought that was going to be it.
So is this like year one or year two? Like, how long did this take?
Yeah, it took a good first year to
Okay.
get that product. And then what I started doing was sending it to everyone I thought was just going to believe in me instantly. So I sent it to Sephora and Ulta Beauty and all the department stores and all of the online retailers, QVC, which is, live television shopping channel. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be huge. Every single one of them said no after no after no after no. And to your point, it became 3 years of not being able to pay myself, 3 years of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of no's, of crying myself to sleep at night.
Were you and your
Um,
husband like fighting like crazy? Like, you should go back to work. You should, but why do we do that? Like, were you like doing
you
that?
you want to know what it was? We
Yeah.
still believed in it, but we weren't sure how we were going to make it. It was like friends and family that were like, wait, you quit your job? Are you sure you should have quit your job? Or wait, you still haven't made any money? Like it's been 3 years, right?" So you hear all of this, the voices get so loud.
Yeah.
The loudest, though, were my own self doubt. Sometimes we take a chance and go for something because our gut is telling us to do it. And then all of a sudden, you face all this opposition and you start to question, is my gut wrong? Is my knowing wrong? And there were so many times where I would literally get this another brutal no from, Sephora or QVC or whoever it was. And I would just literally cry myself to sleep. I would pray about it and be like, "God, I feel like I'm supposed to be doing this, but nothing is going right."
So let's just pause in that moment because I get a lot of questions from listeners who, because of the things that have happened in their past,
Yeah.
they don't know how to trust their intuition.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of questions about decision making and how to truly, in a situation like this, where you are burning through your entire life savings,
Yeah.
you have left your dream job, you have gotten no after no after no after no after no. How do you stay connected to your intuition in a
Mhm.
situation like that?
Mhm.
What tool do you have or what advice can you give to somebody who's having trouble hearing what the right decision is
Mhm.
in that kind of situation?
Yeah. So I think that intuition is like a muscle that we build
Mhm.
over time. And I think it's a lifelong journey. that, to really learning how to hear it and to trust it. And one of the greatest tools, I think, is to think back to times in your life where maybe you had this gut feeling to do something and everyone around you said, don't do it. So you listen to them, you didn't trust yourself, and then think about what happened. Right. And then similarly, go back to a time where everyone was like, oh, no way, no way. And you're like, but I love him. I don't think he's lying. I think his phone really did break 5 times every weekend. He didn't disappear his phone. Like, right, think about like that situation when everyone was telling you something and you didn't listen, or even your gut was telling you, right? And you didn't listen, and you think back to those times and you start to develop pattern recognition of how it felt in moments in your life when you trusted yourself or didn't, and what happened, and you get better attuned to what that feels like. So
What does it feel like for you in both
feel
situations? Like, can you describe what it feels like for you when you're like, yep, no, that's a no? And what
yes.
does it feel like for you when you're like, I'm sticking with this?
Yeah. Often it's the tiniest of feelings in my gut, right? Some people describe it as like a still small voice. I pray about it. I ask God to give me the answers and I try to live the answers.
Do you feel the answers that God gives you? Like, is that what happens for you when you do this?
Like right now, when I look at you,
Yeah.
right? Like I know you're a beautiful soul, right? I just know it. You know it. You feel it. Like I feel like you have good, like you're good. You know what I mean? It's a
Yeah.
feeling, right? And we get these feelings, but so much around us is so loud.
Hmm.
And we just learn over time. And by the way, not to go, this could be a whole other episode, but especially as women, from the time we're young, we learn not to trust ourselves. We walk in to our parents fighting and we go, is everything okay? They're like, everything's great. Everything's great, right? To protect us, we start to learn to
You're like,
doubt ourselves.
baloney. Yep.
Right? But
Uh-huh.
or, especially as young girls, you learn to make decisions by consensus
Mm.
often with your friends,
Or
and
making other people happy.
making other people happy. People pleasing. We're rewarded for pleasing everyone else and almost ignoring what we feel. So if you're someone who's an adult right now going, I don't even know how to hear my own gut or trust myself, that's why we've been trained out of learning how to do it, right? So it takes intentionality and really deciding, oh, you know what? I'm going to put in some time, even if it's 5 minutes a day, just to thinking about moments in my life where I trusted myself, where I didn't. And if you don't remember any of them, start now.
You know what you just inspired me to think about?
Hmm.
I don't even know if it's possible to do this, but imagine if you could go through the rest of today and only make decisions that align with what you truly want. If you
Yes.
don't want to go to that party tonight, don't go. If a friend asks you something and you feel obligated out of guilt to lend them that thing, don't actually lend them the thing.
Yeah.
Eat what you want to eat tonight for dinner. Don't just go to wherever your friends want to go. Like, I think that would be a real eye-opening experiment if you were to do that.
And you start building that muscle, right? And the more you do that, some people don't even pay attention to what they actually want to eat for dinner. They're just like, what sounds good to everyone? But to your point, when you start paying
Hmm.
attention, then you also start building that knowing of hearing your own knowing.
Do you think it's possible to discover your unique purpose in life if you are not connected and listening to your intention and intuition, I mean?
And your own intuition. Here's how I think it's way more likely, and you're going to actually discover more than one purpose
Hmm.
often if you're really tuned in to your intuition and you're intentional about it. But what I'll say for someone who feels like they can't hear their gut but they still want to find their purpose, a friend of mine, Rory Vaden, says that your best position to serve the person you once were, right? Trent Shelton, our friend, says one day the things you're going through right now will be the things you made it through.
Yeah.
And what I would say to someone listening right now is look at something in the past that has broken your heart, that has caused you grief, that has been something that you care deeply about, whether it's
Hmm.
positive or negative, that you've gone through, something you care deeply about, or maybe pain you've gone through, something you have made it through. I believe often when we go through the hardest times in our life,
Yep.
it's for one of two reasons.
What are they?
It is to either equip us with the strength we need to carry the weight of our success that's to come, to
Mm.
carry the weight of our purpose that's to come, or we've gone through these horrible, unspeakable times, things we would never want to happen to us again in our life, because we're actually going to get our greatest source of fulfillment and purpose by one day helping someone else who's going through them.
I
And
love that saying that you're best equipped to help the person you used to be.
yes,
And you also have made a huge difference in women's lives around the world because you are extraordinarily philanthropic. $40 million worth of product and monetary donations to people that are struggling with cancer. And what is next for you?
mm,
Because you are right now in the middle of figuring out on this next leg of the journey called life what your purpose is
mhm.
and what your next thing is going to be. What tools are you using or how are you thinking about it? And it's really important topic because so many people, particularly after the last 3 years, have had a profound life change thrust on them.
Yes.
And they're looking ahead at an open road, wondering what their purpose is going to be, what they're going to do. Can you just speak to that person for a minute about
Mhm.
how you're going about figuring it out?
Yeah. So, one thing I just want to remind everyone too, Mel, because I think people put so much pressure on themselves that their purpose has to be their job or their
Hmm.
next job. And a lot of times we can be doing a job that's fine. And maybe for family reasons, we need that health coverage and we need that paycheck and your purpose can be found in the things you do outside of that, right? There's a lot of ways to listen to that knowing and your gut and then when it feels right, you know that's aligned with who you're born to be
Mm-hmm.
and how you're born to show up in the world. And so for me right now, there's that famous saying, just because you can, should you, right? There's
Hmm.
a big part of me now with all these, could I go launch a bunch of businesses? Yes. Right. And what I feel drawn to is literally because here's the deal. Yes, I've built $1 billion business. Yes, I have other companies that I invest in.
You
But
also are married and you have two beautiful children,
yes, a
and
2-year-old and a
you're
4-year-old.
incredibly devoted to your family.
Hmm. Well, and here's the thing is like that's all part of my story, but when I look at my real story, it meaning the part that ties deeply to my purpose, like my real story is a girl who went from not believing in herself to
Hmm.
learning how to. And so when I wake up in the morning and I think about the things I've done so far, the things I hope for my kids for, and how I built $1 billion business, it was really through seeing women, helping them see themselves
Hmm.
and believe in themselves and believe they are worthy and enough. And that's what fires me up every morning. So when I think about what I'm stepping into next,
Yeah.
I wrote Believe It, which is about my book about how to go from underestimated to unstoppable, donated all the proceeds. I'm donating all the proceeds from 100%. I funded leadership.
Hold on. Let's just underscore that. So she writes a New York Times bestseller, donates all the proceeds from the book
Yeah.
to nonprofits. Just donates them.
Yeah. And the book is just,
It's
from,
incredible.
thank you.
It's like a little manual that you should have on your bedside table because Jamie will be smiling at you
Yes.
and you'll see that you're not alone, that we're in this together. And her example of learning how to go from doubting herself to believing in herself is the journey that each and every one of us is on.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of in this soup of knowing that this is the area where you want to focus the impact, but you're
Yeah.
not being a very, very, very good friend of yours. I know that you're not, it's still a fuzzy target, so to speak, as
Mm,
our friend Dean would say, it's a fuzzy target. if somebody kind of has a sense that there's something more, but they don't quite have they haven't had that aha moment yet that
Yeah.
you had almost 14 years ago sitting on that television set.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make makeup and I'm gonna bring real women in. I'm gonna show my skin and I'm gonna
Yeah.
solve this problem. I'm gonna make people think that they're beautiful because they are beautiful no matter what their body. And you did it. You did it. But if you're in the soup and you
Yeah.
don't have the vision yet, is there an exercise or something that you would recommend that we all do while we're waiting for that clarity and that epiphany to strike?
Yeah, two things. One, waiting for it to be perfect can be the lowest vibration, biggest excuse,
Mm.
number one reason why people just never try and never get started. So I think it's rare to ever have complete clarity, like this is exactly perfect for, and that's why, two things. I think just taking a step and seeing how it feels is good, tuning into your knowing. I also think, Dean, so you mentioned our friend Dean who was saying it's a fuzzy target. He was saying something to me recently about, almost like when you're about to aim a bow and arrow and you're about to let go of the arrow. He's like, you can aim and turn it and twist it a few times before you let go of the arrow. It's okay to wait a little bit and just make sure you're going to aim at the right thing.
Mm.
And so this year, for example, I've kind of been doing that. I've been saying, how do things feel? I have the gift and blessing of being here with you right now,
How does this feel?
feels amazing.
So does this mean
I love
you're going to
you.
do a talk show?
Maybe you could teach me all the ropes, Mel, and then yeah. But
Hardly. I am a failed talk show host.
Okay. Don't even you
That
want
is true.
this is
My talk show got canceled.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because
I can tell you. Go ahead.
well, I was going to apply the lessons from Professor Purpose, but I'd like to hear you tell me why.
I think our steps are ordered. Why? I think because you are going to own all of what you're doing and make it so much bigger than anyone else who owned it could have made it.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
So, by that definition, I think you're the most successful talk show host. That's the first thing.
At least in the podcast days.
But no, I think it's all going to be the same. I think a show is a show. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The world's changing so rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
And I love too that you can do this show on your terms,
It's true.
right? You can do it on your terms. And that's why it is so huge because it's on your terms.
Well, like you, and maybe this is one of the reasons why we have become such dear friends in such a short period of time. And I often say on the show that I truly believe that the best years of your life and the best friendships that you'll have are on the road ahead.
Mm.
But a lot of the reason why we connected so profoundly, even though we are different in many, many ways,
Yeah.
is that it goes back to the Denny's waitress. Like at my core, I am still the waitress making money, waiting tables at the Red Rooster Tavern on Scenic Drive in North Muskegon, Michigan. Same as you, stalling because the fryer has now broken and the fried perch is not coming out. And I'm talking to the tourists from Chicago and I'm treating everybody kindly. And I know that all I want to do is impact people's lives that are just got their head down and they don't feel very seen or heard. And I want to make them know that they have it within them to tap into this incredible power inside them to create whatever they want in life.
Yes.
And it starts with believing
Yes.
that you can and having somebody like you on who has demonstrated that is really
Yeah.
important for people to hear.
On that topic of friendship, I love so much that you are the friend that people need to your audience. Like, and what I mean by that, and I'm honored to be the friend for this episode with you to everyone. And what I mean by that, Mel, is I think you and I love each other for who we authentically are. The Denny's waitress, the Red Rooster waitress, right? And we also are friends that help pull each other into who we're
Yes.
becoming.
Yes.
And I think so often, and that's why I love, and your show also, as you know, of course, but I just want to call it out that your show can be this for people who feel like, how do I find those friends that help pull me into my future? Because so often the people around us, while they might mean really, really well and love us dearly,
pull us into our past, or for their own comfort zone, want us to stay the person we were or are. And it's so important, because we're talking about purpose,
Yeah.
to try and add friends to your circle who truly want the best for you, not just what they think is the best for them in you, but like want the best for you. And you do that for me. I do that for you.
Yes.
This show, your show, I know does that for people as well.
Yes.
And so honored to be part of that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I want to dive deep into one tool you can apply to your life right now, because I promised you that I'm going to share a bit more about chapter 3, called You're Not Crazy, You're Just First. I want to dive deep in this because specifically I want to share some words that just might be for you in your very moment in life. Words that you can apply to your life right now as you're on your journey to becoming the person you're born to be. And I get so many questions about this concept on social media from you. You're asking me to explain what do I mean by this concept that you're not crazy, you're just first. Y'all ready? I know this is for someone and I feel it in my entire being. So let me just start by saying, if you are wondering if you are first, you are. See, when you are one of the brave ones willing to show up and live your life authentically as who you are, you're first. There's only one of you that's ever been created. There's no one else in existence quite like you. No one else quite like you. No one else with your fingerprints or with the iris of your eyes. No one else with your tongue print. Yep, we all have unique tongue prints, every single one of us. And when you live as who you were authentically created to be, not as your representative that you show up as to make everyone else happy, not as, your job title, not as who others expect or hope you to be, but as who you authentically are created to be, you are first. You are the only one that is you. And when you are first, not everyone is going to get it. But it's the only way to live the highest, truest path to your calling. Living as the authentic you can be scary, but here's the deal, y'all. What I know for sure in leadership, in business, in relationships, and in fulfillment in life, that while authenticity alone doesn't automatically guarantee success, inauthenticity guarantees failure. Right? So I'm going to dive into this because you can apply it to your life right now. We got some exciting giveaways coming up in a few minutes, a bunch more giveaways, which I love a good giveaway. But this one is really powerful, and I know it's going to hit home for so many of you, because here's the thing. Authenticity can be scary, because when you're living authentically, you are first, the first to see the world the way you do, the first to have the ideas that you have, the first to experience emotions and art and beauty and vision the way that you do. And not everyone else is going to get it, because your creator made your unique set of talents and gifts and thoughts and ideas only inside of you. And see, for me, most of my life, I remember growing up, and then even later in my teens and 20s, even in my 30s, I would share some of my big, bold, God-sized dreams with people around me, and they would call me words like crazy. They'd say, you're the crazy one. You're crazy for those ideas. They call me crazy or odd or different. And sometimes I would feel like I didn't fit in. And sometimes I get pretty sad about it. And when we feel like we are odd or different or don't belong, it can be sad. And one day I realized this in this aha light bulb moment, like a powerful burst. I'm not crazy. I'm just first. Those words helped me build a company that did things totally different in the beauty industry. And these words helped me keep believing in the power of my unique ideas, even when industry experts told me that they would never work. And in fact, it was by believing I'm not crazy, I'm just first, it helped me get past feelings of not being like everyone else in the beauty industry. And I was able to turn, overcoming those feelings of not being like everyone else into building one of the largest companies in that industry, because I wasn't like everyone else, right? And what I want you to know is that the thing right now
The thing you might be thinking is most wrong with you is so often the thing that's most right with you. So maybe you'll know in your soul that this exactly is for you today. But if you feel like you have big ideas on your heart, or that people around you might love you but just don't quite get you, it's only because God made just one of you. And I need you to hear these words right now. You're not crazy. You're just first. And while in Worthy, there's 23 chapters of, tactical tools that build self-worth, I want to share one excerpt. This is an excerpt, not the whole thing, from a poem in the book. The book is so powerful, but I felt in my soul that I have to share this with you tonight. And these words are written from my soul to yours. The poem is called, You're Not Crazy, You're Just First. Who do you think you are? They say. Things like that aren't for people like us. Why are you going around changing, planning to leave us in the dust? Are you forgetting where you come from? Is it not good enough anymore? And just like that, the temptation to play life small feels more comfortable than before. They call you odd, strange, different for having dreams bigger than they can see because those dreams weren't given to them. They see them through fear and anxiety. And even well-intentioned people who love you to the bone can see you pursuing your dreams as a reflection of them not fulfilling their own. If people like people who are like them, hiding who you are can feel like home. But a calling unexpressed inside you leaves you feeling anguished and alone, even inside of your own home. They call you words like crazy and say, we stick together for better or for worse, but what your soul knows is you're not crazy, you're just first. The first to launch the business, to dust your dreams off of the shelf, the first to believe you're worthy of betting on yourself, the first to beat addiction, to live life sober and awake, the first to break that generational cycle that you know you're born to break. The first to start healing, the first to forgive so you'll be free, the first to love others for who they are, not for who you wish they'd be. The first to be a visionary, to dream up the screenplay that you'll write, the first to recognize your gifts and stop hiding in plain sight. The first boss in your company to say, I deal with self-doubt too. The first mom to say, no, I'm not okay, and I don't know what to do. The first in generations to love your body and celebrate it joyfully, to prove it, to know that it's a miracle in motion and what a gift it is to move it. The first to risk rejection, to speak your truth with vigor, knowing that the opposition might be big, but your creator is bigger. The first to cheer yourself on and truly believe it, not just fake it, knowing that most people won't cheer you on until after you make it. The first to stand up for the outcast and say, stop teasing, I just won't. You might be tempted to underestimate me, but let me save you some time. Don't. The first to say, yeah, you hurt me, but I'm not rejected, see? God just hid my value from you because you're not assigned to my destiny. The first to believe in your dreams, even when others might not get you, then one day love them anyways when they're bragging to people how they met you. See, when we fear we're not enough and fear even more we won't be loved, it is so tempting to shrink in size and trade in our purpose for their hugs. But when you're feeling like you don't fit in or that you never quite belong, your uniqueness is your superpower. Your truth is never wrong. And when they criticize to hold you back because your dreams aren't what they're used to, and they're afraid that you'll outgrow them, leave them behind, or that they'll lose you, stop asking for their advice if they've never been there themselves. Because when you people please for others, you end up betraying yourself. So when doubt tempts you to dim your light, always remember this verse. Your soul knows you are made for more. With so much purpose, it could burst. You're born with greatness inside of you, and whether it's a blessing or a curse, the world won't be better until your greatness is dispersed. See, There's only one of you in the entire universe. And your knowing knows you're not crazy. You're just first. You know, because a lot of people, we talk about dreaming big today. And I feel like a lot of people have these reasons they think they're not quite ready to dream big yet. And maybe they think they don't have the right support around them, or they don't have the right setup on their computer, or they don't have the right team they've hired, or they don't, all these things. And I think part of you showing and me showing, hopefully both of us, all the real stuff, it's like, oh, you don't always need to have all that stuff together to start or to dream big and to start having that vision. That's a big vision for where you're going while enjoying the moment.
People, I love that. Big vision for where you're going while enjoying the moment, and knowing that 100% of success stories you have ever heard, that success story began with somebody going 90 miles an hour and putting the wheels on as they were going and building the thing. They endured years of mess and disorganization and trying to figure out, and doubt and risk of failure on the precipice daily. And you don't get that easy path when you want to do great things. Yeah. It's difficult. Les Brown always said, I love Les Brown. Les has been on our stages. Les is a personal development legend. I hope you know who he is. Les Brown always said, he's like, if you want your life to be easy, do hard things. If you want your life to be hard, do easy things. And it just says, it's like, oh, you have to push. You have to struggle. Here's what I want everyone to know. Thinking big today. This is my message to you. And thinking big. You are clueless to the depths of your capabilities. You have no idea what you are capable of. You have no idea what your full potential is. And I'm not judgment. I don't know either. Like, there's one guy up there. For me, I'm a spiritual person, so God's got me. God knows the immensity of the soul he put into this body, and no one else does, including me. I have no idea the immensity of the challenges God's got lined up for me 5 years from now, or 10 or 3 or 4 minutes. Like, you don't know. But what you do know is you're going to arrive and you will be summoned to call your best forth to serve one day. You will be summoned to rise above your own little insecurities and comforts and joys and ask, wow, how can I get more out of myself to be of service in this moment? Whether that is your first 2 years with a new baby, and you're like, my eyes, I haven't slept, you know? Or it's that first 4 years of your startup. It's going to demand so much of you, but you will rise to it. You will be capable. You will learn as you go. So stop all the waiting, get in the game, put the wheels on as you're going, move towards that dream with more rapidness, because you'll figure it out as you go. It won't be perfect. Jamie said, you're so vulnerable. Yet the other day you said to me, I feel like never in my life, Brendan, have I dropped more balls, I think you were saying.
And right now.
Yeah, tell them about that, because you're thinking big, but she's built $1 billion business. And right now, even after having that experience, she feels like this is life, y'all. Anyway, tell them about that.
I think, you know, when I think back to the early days of building at Cosmetics, there were years of I didn't know what I didn't know, right? And I was trying to do every job in my living room because I couldn't afford to hire anybody. And I think anytime we're also doing something new or dreaming big and trying to go to new levels, just the newness of all of it is overwhelming, right? Because we don't know what we don't know. And so, you know, at the end of a 10-year journey with that, building over 1,000 employees and $1 billion company and all that, I knew a lot about the beauty industry and about manufacturing and legal and acquisitions and building a team and leadership and all those things, right? And now, as a first-time author, I actually
a whole new game.
A whole new game. I feel literally I'm back in my living room, not knowing what I don't know, right? And it's a growth, a major season of growth for me. And, you know, you and I, Brendan, talk a lot about just the idea of being a lifelong student. And, you know, I'm proud to be a lifetime student. And like I'm honored to learn from everyone in our community right now who's posting in the comments and posting in Facebook and posting in Instagram. A part of the Growth Day Morning Show. We learn from each other. I learned from all the other Growth Day coaches. And I'm in a season right now of going, okay, because for the last 5 years, I've been offered book deals because of my story, but I didn't want to have a ghostwriter do it. So I said no for 5 years. I wanted, because I have learned in my life, like, you cannot fake authenticity. And, you know, one of the things I talk about in the book a lot actually is how, you know, authenticity alone doesn't guarantee success, but inauthenticity guarantees failure. And that's in everything, right? And I talk about all the lessons I've learned around that in the book. But then for me to have that book actually truly serve at the highest possible level, I wanted to write every word myself. I knew it had to be authentic. So this has been 2 years, actually, a year and a half, little over a year and a half of growth and of dropping so many balls and,
learning
you
new
know,
things, messing it
learning
up,
new
trying to
things.
get into it.
Exactly. Yeah. Like you saw me when I got the first cover in, I was cutting it out and taping it to Jay Shetty's book because it was the right size. Every little thing I'm like trying to figure it out and because I want it to be authentic and I want it to be right and I want to have no regrets. But yeah, I am dropping balls everywhere in terms of, I mean, last night I was up all night writing web copy, writing because I want it to be authentic to like the heart and soul of how I want to serve. And I'm doing a big launch event, which we'll talk about later. Because it's still top secret, but we're going to tell everyone on Growth Day first. But
she's doing it big. She's going for it. Listen, she decided to write a book. And she had, I want everyone, I know some of you are thinking about writing a book or launching something new. When she said, I'm going to write a book, she said, I want it to be a bestseller. I want it to really impact millions of people. I want it to be a New York Times bestseller. I want to really get it out there. Even though, please listen, she'd never written a book, had no idea how to write a book, and had zero idea how to promote something.
Yeah.
Her confidence in thinking big came from her belief in her ability to figure things out. She's like, I'll figure it out. So your big vision should not be limited by today's skill set or today's competency. Your big vision should be based on your service you want to give, your dream you want to live with your family. Like, and you will develop the skills along the way as you get in motion towards the thing. You don't start the journey perfect. The definition of perfection is to perfect. To perfect requires that you start. You start something, release something, launch something, and you perfect as you go. Perfect is a verb. It is done to something that is out there, that is released, that is built to perfect. And so you don't start perfect, you perfect. And then as soon as you go, oh, okay, we're going to start this Growth Day Morning Show. We don't know how to plug it into Instagram or Facebook. We don't know how to use an outward mic, these mics. We don't know what the heck we're doing. Our first 4 days, we were just perfecting how to do that little piece. We still are. I think that's so important. And Jamie, I want to give you credit because sometimes you feel like you're dropping so many balls because you're so good at what you're doing in every other area, but you're also doing awesome and you're getting great momentum, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Yeah. And I'm just trying to be brave, and I'm trying to, and this, you know, this is something that I think is huge too, is, you know, we often talk about when, you know, I have a whole journey of hearing no for years, right? Experts telling me my vision wasn't going to work for cosmetics and all those kind of things. But I still believe that it's our own self-doubt that kills more dreams than almost anything else. It's our own kind of limitations that we put on ourselves, or our own reasons we give ourselves why we need to still wait to do something, or we're not quite ready to write the book, or any of those things, right? And I get why, because doing it all and putting ourselves out there is scary. And sometimes it's easier to not dream big, because then we don't have to be afraid of not hitting that mark, or we stay in our comfort zone, right? But I think that to recap what you said in the start of this, which is so good, it's so good, is until we like take those chains off we put on ourselves, we don't know how much we're capable of. We don't know the level we're capable of dreaming and serving and giving and creating and ideating and inspiring, right? And leading and all of those things. And I think that,
and the level of discipline you're all capable of. The level of, so Jamie is in what we call a launch window. So for those who are new, Jamie is launching a book called Believe It, and it comes out next month. I hope that you will pre-order on Amazon. It's called Believe It by Jamie Kern Lima. It comes out next month. She's in this time we call a launch window. A launch window is when your life becomes very like deep work, essentialism, high performance habits. You are doing this thing. A lot of balls are following all over there because you have this limited amount of time to launch this thing. And until you've been through that several times, you don't know how much you can get done. I'll give you an example of thinking big. This month, if you told me, okay, Brendan, in 1 month, listen to y'all, in 1 month, rebranded the company, onboarded 20 plus people and teams from outsourcing and internal all around, launched a new offering, brought in all our new growth coaches, in other words, found like 8 other new promotional partners and friends to serve, built a new software team, building the software, serving all of our customers without missing too many beats, launching a new community platform, launching this show, and somehow enjoying the month. If you told Brendan, 19-year-old Brendan, that was, he'd be like, I don't know how to hire. I don't know what a brand is. I don't know what a company is. What is it? Like, if you told your former self that, or your future self, I should say, you don't know what you're capable of. And I'm not saying that to be like, oh, look at me, because I've been feel like I'm putting the wheels on as I'm going. But I said, okay, let's just get in motion. We're going to figure it out. We're going to go. It's crunch time. Let's go. Let's move things forward. Move things forward. Move things forward. You will perfect as you go. But no way could I imagine that we could do all of this in a single month until you go for it, guys. You got to go for your dreams. Thinking big means moving big, taking big action, taking daily, you might call it small actions, but those daily small actions compound. You got to get in the game. Some of you, it's so easy to sit it out and you're still waiting for someone's approval or someone's understanding. It's like, if no one understands, if you feel like no one understands you, you have no one to blame but you. We have to learn. And I don't say that judgmentally, I had to learn to communicate. I sucked at communicating. I felt like I didn't have connection with people because I didn't know how to communicate. Be vulnerable, share emotions, like create human, like good friendships. I didn't know how to do that. So I did like a lot of you personal growth lovers who read How to Win Friends and Influence People from Dale Carnegie. Anyone read that? Oh my God, changed my life.
Yeah, I need to reread it. I read it like 20 years ago.
So good.
Yeah.
Such a classic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
so
I did that because I was terrible with people. And so now I communicate to millions of people daily. So if you told that really awkward dude, oh, you're going to talk to millions of people, you didn't believe it. But as you jump into the dream and you get momentum, you start to believe it more. You get more skills, more capabilities. Those capabilities lead to competency. That competency leads to confidence, and you're moving. I don't know.
Yeah. And not only do you talk to millions of people, you train other incredible teams. I know I always bring up Oprah's team on the show, who I know you've trained, but you train so many people how to do it also. So it's like, not only do you do it now, you also are like one of the top people in the world at helping some of the top people in the world do it themselves. So it's pretty remarkable. And one thing I want to share, because I'm reading the comments, a lot of people saying, oh, it's hard to unchain ourselves. It's hard to start. It's hard to start when we don't know if our idea is good enough, or we don't know if our dream is right, and all that kind of thing. And one thing you just said that I just want to call out, because I think it's really important, is that sometimes people do cheer for you after you've made it. And I want to call this out, okay?
Yeah.
Because so I've lived through this. I have lived through this, okay? I have so many stories, and that's why everyone writing a book, it's like it is the greatest joy to go, oh my gosh, if people knew I went through all this, they would feel less alone, they would feel like they can get through it too, because this is the real stuff that happens. But there were so many people that did not cheer for me until after after my company was a success, or after we were splashed in all the magazines, or after. And often when they start cheering for you, then it's in the form of, I always knew that you'd make it, or I'm so proud of you, I've been rooting for you from the beginning. You're like, no, you were. But it's okay, right? I think right. Or they're like, they're telling people how they know you, and it's wild to watch this. And it's not that they mean harm. Here's what when I've peeled back the layers on this, there's a couple lessons here I want to share with anyone, especially if they're scared to start, if they're scared to take that jump, if they're scared to dream big and call their shot and go for it and all of that. Because what we start to do, I think, as humans, is we share our dreams or our ideas with the people around us. Sometimes we share them in groups. And then sometimes we share them with experts, or with, people in our industry that have had a lot of success or whatever. And then when we don't get the kind of response we're hoping for, right? Then we start to doubt ourselves, and we start to think we're not ready, or we think, oh, you know what? A million other people have done this idea. Like, maybe I shouldn't do it. It's already been done so many other times. So here's the big thing I've learned, okay, is first of all, as we know, the only way to ever have a human connection is to show up authentically, right? And that can be with your partner, with a friend, with your customers online, with what you're doing, right? With how you're launching your dream. So just to take a step back, if you are doing something authentically, right, your dream. So in my case, there's a million beauty companies out there, and I launched a beauty company. Well, there's millions of them. Someone had already done it. Millions of people had already done it, right? But when you do something authentically, no one can do it the way you're doing it, right? So by definition, what you're doing is novel. By definition, it's never been done before. And here's what I've learned. Other people, typically, even experts, even visionaries, they typically can't imagine something being successful unless subconsciously they've already seen proof that it's already been done and it's already been successful.
Yes.
But because you're doing it authentically to you, it's never been done before. So don't be surprised when the people around you who love you, or the experts you have so much respect for, don't initially give you the reaction to your big dream or your big idea. It's because no one's done it the way you're going to do it. So it's never been done before. It's novel, it's new, right? And most people would never admit this, but unless subconsciously they've seen it that way and they've seen it succeed, they're not going to believe that it will. So,
except people who have done it themselves. Like you and I believe in people. We believe in you guys so much because when you meet people who came from nothing and they built it and they did it, they're the ones who usually are on board. Like, sounds like, go for it. Don't know if it's going to work, but cheer them on, encourage it. Like, people who've actually done it are the most encouraging. Yes.
Yeah. And we've gone through the journey of hearing thousands of people not believe in us. And then when you come out of the other side of that, you're like, and you have a whole new perspective, right? But the truth is, in my own journey, for example, as it pertains to building the company, I also learned years later, the hard way, after crying myself to sleep a lot of nights, after hearing a lot of no's, I learned, oh, wait, most of the beauty retailers, they're amazing and they're great. And they all said no to me for years, but they've also never actually built anything themselves.
Yes.
Right. And it's like, oh, and to your point, that's why I'm so passionate about Growth Day and supporting it however I can, but also this morning show, right? Because it's like when you surround yourself with people that are in that space that share these kind of stories, then you're like, oh, okay, I get it that, like, Aunt Margie said that she didn't think this was going to be a success, but that's okay. She loves me anyway, and she's never built something like this. So she's seeing it through the best lens she knows how. But I'm not going to let that penetrate me, or me calling my shot, me going for my dream, me dreaming big, right? So I want to share that to you this morning.
Ladies and gentlemen, rock this house and welcome to the stage, Jamie Kern Lima! Jamie Kern Lima!
Every single one of us has had someone tell us we're not enough. Every single one of us has had someone say words to us that hurt.